Now, you just came back from Vegas, where you had a reunion
Vegas, baby.
with, of all things, the Ice Capades. And I knew this about you, that you performed as a skater with the Ice Capades?
I spent 4 years skating with the Ice Capades. Basically, I ran away to join the circus on ice some years ago.
Okay, so I remember the Ice Capades. Many of our listeners do. Back in the 60s and 70s when I was young. And when did they stop doing Ice Capades? When did that end?
Well, we were just in Vegas for the 75th anniversary of the show. The show started in Hershey, Pennsylvania in 1940. So we gathered at this reunion. We've had one just about every 5 years the past maybe 15 years or so. There have been various other ones. But this one had 400 skaters from across the country and Canada, spanning 70 years. We had 4 skaters there who were in their 90s, who were in the Ice Capades in the 40s. And it was such a marvelous experience. We had a chance to travel around the country. We had David on earlier who was talking about geography. And through this opportunity, we were able to perform throughout the country. We would travel on a Monday from one city to the next. Let's say we started here in Boston. So if we were moving to the next city, we'd arrive in Boston on a Monday at the Boston Garden, or now the TD Bank North, perform Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 3 shows on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and then travel to the next city. And what was great about this reunion that we had is that, and very unique, is that Ice Capades became literally a family of people, because you would travel with the same people, you'd work with the same people, you would eat, you would room and sleep with the same people. And this was for 9 straight months out of the year. And this was the way it went for 70-some years.
Now, I remember the Olympic skaters would be part of the troupe, particularly after they had some Olympic exposure, right? I'm just looking at the list. Ty Babylonia right at the top of the list here of all the greats.
Ty and Randy.
And Ty and Randy. Was Peggy Fleming part of the Capades, or was it the Ice Follies?
I believe she was part of it as well. In fact, at the reunion, I found out even as far back as Dick Button was part of it, and Sonia Henney and so forth.
Right. So these are the biggest names in skating in the world. Yes. Plus, obviously, the troupe, and you were part of the troupe. So, what would be a typical kind of show for you? What kind of things were you doing?
Well, what made our show different than the shows that are out now is that the traveling shows that you see on the road these days are pretty much the Disney on Ice, which nothing to disparage them whatsoever, but they are skaters that are the Disney characters. What Ice Capades was unique in that it was a sort of variety show, where you had huge production numbers that were of the quality that you'd see in Vegas. Great costuming, great skating, great choreography. Many of the skaters that were involved in it were people who were previously competitive skaters, as I was as well. And so when you were finished with your competitive career, you had a chance every Friday night. Anybody could walk in after a performance, walk in with a pair of skates, and audition.
Really?
And if you were good enough, you would usually be hired to join the next tour.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, in my particular case, it just happened to have an opening, and I thought I was just going to try out and see if I could be part of it. And I was actually working my first TV job as a production assistant right out of college. So a friend of mine told me, why don't you just try out to see if you can get in? And I just wanted to take a shot, see if I would make it, but they happened to have an opening. I said, well, I'll try for 1 year. 1 year led to another year because they were going to Hawaii the next season. Then the 3rd year I stayed because, well, my family wanted to see me perform. And the 4th year I met someone that I was seeing at the time, and it just became something that we became part of a family, and I just loved every part of it. And the impetus for me to start skating and to join the Ice Capades is that I had a huge crush, as did many a red-blooded American boy, on Dorothy Hamill.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I
remember going to those shows and really taken by it all. Of course, when you're a kid, you love the clowns, the comedians who go out there and do. Was there a guy who was the big name for years on ice? That did the shtick?
The main guy, his name was Freddie Trenkler.
That's it.
And in fact, one of my dearest friends, maybe she's listening out there, or somebody who knows Ice Capades certainly knows. Her name is Margaret Trinkler. That's his daughter. She was with me as part of the group my first year in the show. But yeah, Freddie Trinkler is an icon amongst the Ice Capades history, as well as Donna Atwood, and locally we've had a number of skaters that were a portion of it. And again, the unique thing about Ice Capades is that it gave not only the Olympic skaters a chance to perform and to continue their career to some extent. This was before Tanya and Nancy, by the way, that whole debacle.
Right.
That also helped ice skating become huge.
Huge.
But prior to that incident, pretty much once you were finished with your ice skating career, you either started to teach or you joined the Ice Capades. And it allowed you 16, 17, 18-year-old skaters the unique opportunity to travel the country, to see literally every city in the country, big and small, from Duluth, Minnesota to Los Angeles, California, and New York City. So it was an opportunity to see the country, perhaps see the world in some cases, and also to perform in front of thousands of people. When I am 99 years old, hopefully, one of the memories that I will have is to be able to say that I stood on the ice either at the Boston Garden or at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, and to have thousands of people applaud you. There is nothing like that feeling.
And I've got to imagine that your wardrobe, all the costuming, and it was ornate, and the lighting, and you'd see these people, and like you say, a Vegas style show with all the bells and whistles, but it was all on ice. I mean, do you remember any particular costume per se that stands out?
Throughout the entire show, there were different kinds of costumes. I was more into the skating part of it. The costumes were cool for me. Some people were more interested in some of the costumes. The costumes that stood out for me, they always had in every Ice Capade show a 10-minute segment that were for the kids called the Kitty Number, and it might have been the Smurfs or the Ewoks. So yes, one year I was the head Ewok for 10 minutes. So we those costumes stood out. They were. I also want to emphasize, even as much fun as it was hard work, because it looks like a very glamorous and fun show, but there was an incredible amount of athleticism that had to go into it.
I could appreciate that as a youngster, seeing these people skating and doing triples and flying all over the ice and choreographed like the June Taylor dancers. I mean, it was amazing. And I know that there was the other one, the Ice Follies, I believe, at the around the same time. I don't know, were they competing troops? Or
they were two separate troops, although I believe at one point when Ice Follies went out of business, they may have combined. If there's any skaters out there, please forgive me if I'm giving erroneous information, but I know they were two separate entities at one point, but I like to consider Ice Capades to be the top of the heap.
And I've never asked you this, but you grew up in Philly? Is that where you're from?
I was born in Philly, but grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so skating, how did that become part of your life? Were you skating at an early age, 3, 4, 5, 6? Or?
No, actually, I started a little bit late. In fact, I started considerably late for a competitive skater. I started at the age of about 14 or 15 because I had a very bad case of pneumonia at the time. And so the doctor said to my mom that I needed to take on some kind of exercise. And at the time, as I had mentioned earlier, I saw Dorothy Hamill on there, and I said, hey, I want to meet her. I mean, this is literally how it went down, Jordan, that I decided, all right, I'm going to start skating. And I started taking some group lessons, and then from there I had a coach. Her maiden name at the time was Gretchen Stearns, or Gretchen Stewart rather, and then Gretchen Stearns, her married name at the time at that point, and she's now Gretchen Hardy. She lives in the New York area, and she was just the type where she saw some talent in me, and I was also, even though I was starting late, I was kind of crazy in that I would throw myself up in the air and not worry about breaking bones or bruising myself.
And how far advanced did you go? I mean, in terms of the competitive stuff, were you thinking Olympics at one point, or?
Olympics wasn't a realistic goal for me at the time that I had started because I started so late. I needed to start when I was, around 10 or perhaps younger. But I got to what is called the Eastern Championships. There are regional championships, there are sectional championships that lead to the national championships. I got as far as the Eastern Championships. But at the time that I was skating, they also had those compulsory figures, and I was horrible at those. I just couldn't get those things down. The free skating and the jumps and the double jumps, I loved doing that. But the figures always messed me up in terms of competition. So it was time to continue that sort of performing. That's always been a part of my life, whether it's skating or performing in front of a microphone or a camera, and that's what led to joining the Ice Capades.
Very interesting. And you had your reunion in Las Vegas, where the ice melts a lot.
Yeah, we were inside where it was very, very, very air conditioned, but it was great fun. So to all my Ice Capades friends out there and the people locally, even here in Boston, because there are a lot of skaters here in Boston at the Skating Club of Boston and so forth. It was just. I tip my hat to all of you. It's a great part of my life and great memories for everybody.
We are going to take this short break in a moment. When we come back, we'll tease a little bit of the pop culture stuff we'll do. Tim is so involved with films. In fact, you just did a little bit of shooting on a certain sequel?
Yeah, but I may not be able to tell you too much about it.
But everybody knows that it's in town. Ghostbusters 3 is shooting in Boston.
If you say so, yes.
I'll say so. I'll take full responsibility because I didn't get a part. What the hell do I care? I mean,
we can talk maybe in general about it.
No, but you've done a lot of movie work and also have met a lot of amazing and interviewed a lot of amazing stars. So we'll chat a little bit about that as well as the zombie stuff after 2 o'clock because,
Sounds great. Hey, The Walking Dead.
Just remember that. Okay, continuing along right after this, we shall be. Ren, you're listening to The Jordan Rich Show.